And welcome everybody to another edition of the Brody File. Look where we are, folks. Hey, it ain't Iowa, Miami, Florida. That's right, we're in the Keys. No, we're not. The Keys are somewhere south of here, right, Stevie? I think the Keys are, I don't know where the Keys are. Anyhow, they're about an hour south. Look, Florida, the big state, coming up on Tuesday, March 15th. But before we get to Florida, we're gonna have more on that in a moment. Let's talk about what just transpired. The big winner, what a shock. Donald Trump, huge once again. Michigan, he won it. Mississippi, won it. Hawaii, he won it. Ted Cruz won Idaho. So, where do we go from here? Well, Donald Trump decided to have kind of like a infomercial. He was trotting out steaks and wine and Trump water. I don't know, he was all over the place with all his products at his watch party, but he had a few other things to say as well.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. This was an amazing evening, and I don't think I've ever had so many horrible, horrible things said about me in 1 week. $38 million worth of horrible lies, but that's okay. It shows you how brilliant the public is, because they knew they were lies, and it was just really amazing to watch. I think what this shows, really more than anything else, is that advertising is not as important. It really isn't as important as competence, because there has never been more money spent on hitting somebody than was spent on me.
Coming in second, and a close second in a couple of these primaries, Ted Cruz. So not only does he win Idaho, but he's that close second we talked about. Here's Cruz after some of what he considers a good night.
And the dynamic we're seeing, the reason our campaign is surging, is nationwide there are roughly 65 to 70% of Republicans who recognize Donald Trump is not the best candidate to go head-to-head with Hillary. That if we nominate Donald Trump, we lose. Hillary beats Trump and beats him badly, which means if we nominate Donald Trump, we lose the Supreme Court for a generation. We lose the Bill of Rights for a generation. Our children drown in debt. For the 65 to 70% of Republicans who recognize that nominating Donald Trump is an absolute disaster, here's what we're seeing happening. On the states that are voting today and the states that are coming up, we're seeing those Republicans unifying behind this campaign.
Now, as for John Kasich, he was supposed to do well in Michigan, and he had a better number than he's been getting in the Deep South. The problem is that better number still translated to a close second, but the reality is he was third.
There's some interesting statistics. For the late voters in Michigan, about 35% of them went for our campaign. And another thing you should know is with the contest going forward, the three of us competing for the delegates that remain, we are in a virtual dead heat among those who have yet to decide. So I think the people are beginning to reward a positive campaign. One that they say to their children, this is the way to conduct yourself in politics. I think that people are beginning to see that.
Now on the Democrat side, look, Bernie Sanders, big win in Michigan, of course, and Hillary Clinton not expecting that. As a matter of fact, Hillary Clinton was up by like 20 points or so in Michigan about a week before she actually lost to Sanders. So they decided to have it out again. Debate setting here in Florida, actually, in Miami. Have a look.
Madam Secretary, I will match my record against yours any day of the week.
Well, let's do that. Let's talk about that.
Senator,
Let's talk about that.
if you get indicted, will you drop out?
Oh, for goodness, that is not going to happen. I'm not even answering that question.
And let us not forget that several years ago, Trump was in the middle of the so-called birther movement, trying to delegitimize the President of the United States of America.
He's talking about a very tall wall, right? A beautiful tall wall. I was the first one to call him out. I called him out when he was calling Mexicans rapists, when he was engaging in rhetoric that I found deeply offensive. I said, basta.
Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders on the debate stage. All right, back to the Republicans for a moment, because if it's the Republicans, well, you know what it's time for. A Brody File commentary. Well, You know, look, I don't know what you want me to say. I mean, every single time we do a commentary, it's about Donald Trump, and that's because he is driving the discussion. He is Teflon Don. There is not any question about it. This guy, doesn't matter, seems to be what he does. As a matter of fact, he even said he could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and his supporters would still flock to him. And you know what? The reality is that that's probably close to being true. I hate to say it, but it's probably true. And so where does Trump go from here? Well, that's why we're here in Florida. It is big. March 15th, if he beats Marco Rubio in Florida, not only is Rubio done, but Trump is well on his way at that point to the nomination. Of course, he would have to do well in Ohio as 2. That's John Kasich's hometown. So if he can pull off the daily double, Ohio and Florida, Kasich and Rubio go bye-bye, and then Ted Cruz gets his one-on-one matchup with Trump. The problem for Cruz at that point is that Donald Trump would be so far ahead in the delegate race that all of it may not matter. All right, when we come back from beautiful Miami, Florida, millennial voters, Hillary, you have some issues. Back in a moment. And welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File here in Miami, Florida, the home of, who lives down here? Does Gloria Estefan live down here? I don't, LeBron James? Oh no, he's gone. Cleveland. He's in Cleveland. We don't want to be in Cleveland. Nothing against Cleveland, but I mean, it's Miami. Look, Miami, it's hip. You got South Beach, and speaking of hip and hipsters and all that stuff, we got to talk about millennials. Bernie Sanders is well with millennials. Hillary Clinton, you've got a few issues. Amber C. Strong, our producer, with more on that.
The numbers have spoken when it comes to the millennial vote. The leaders so far, Senator Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. On Super Tuesday, Hillary Clinton lost the millennial vote to Sanders in every single state. And according to a USA Today Rock the Vote survey, 46% of millennial Democrats overwhelmingly support the Vermont senator. 26% of Republican millennials support Donald Trump. Analysts often point to the anger theme this election season as contributing factors to the Trump-Sanders phenomenon. But the millennials we talk to are drawn to the candidates for a different reason: jobs. Meet Abigail Kelly, a political reporter for Chase the Race, a team of millennials traveling the country covering the 2016 election. Kelly says Senator Sanders in particular speaks to the issues young people want to hear.
The young people support those two in particular because they're authentic in different ways, and I think these two candidates reach out to young people the most. You know, I think they, like with Senator Sanders and his college funding ideas.
And the millennials we talked to across the country agreed.
Taxes are something that we're all affected by. Me having a job and my parents, paying for my tuition and whatnot.
Both campaigns have worked to meet young voters where they are, online. The Sanders campaign has almost 1.6 million Twitter followers and another 3 million on Facebook. Donald Trump, known for his fast Twitter fingers, has been called the Ernest Hemingway of 140 characters, with more than 6 million Twitter followers. But big numbers on social media don't necessarily equal real-life support. Dr. Ben Carson has virtually the same number of Facebook followers as Trump, but Carson's campaign is finished. It's the message that seems to resonate with young people.
Donald Trump's really just, he's like, this is how it is, this is how it's going to be, and I'm all for that.
A lot of my friends, they're big Bernie Sanders supporters, and then I have a lot of friends that are Donald Trump supporters as well, because I feel like millennials, they like people that aren't as wishy-washy. That's a characteristic for our generation. We don't really like to have people that are riding the fence.
Another message that resonates well with millennials is socialism. A new survey from YouGov found that 43% of American Democrats under the age of 30 have a favorable view of socialism. And this generation's potential impact is undeniable. 61% plan to vote in November. Kelly says that enthusiasm is definitely something she's noticed on the campaign trail.
The students around me are really into this. I think also because the kids my age, this is the first election they're really paying attention to, and also the media has made the information easier to get to. So kids are really excited.
And while they may not be known as the greatest generation, they are the biggest, making them a powerful voting bloc indeed. Amber Strong for the Brody File.
Amber C. Strong here on the Brody File. Look, she doesn't just do pop political. She's got lots of depth, folks, lots of depth, and plus she's a hipster. I don't know, is she millennial? We'll have her answer that a little later. All right, when we come back, Lila Rose, the pro-life videos that are shocking the nation and going viral. More on that in a moment. Welcome back, everybody, to Miami, Florida. We love it here in the Sunshine State. There's a reason they call it the Sunshine State, because it's sunny. Thank you, Steve Jacoby, with the off-camera sunny remark. By the way, it's starting to turn into the sweaty state, but that's a whole nother issue. We're going to CVS to get, what are they, is it Menin or whatever they, yeah, Menin. Okay, so look, the pro-life issue. Folks, the pro-life community is making waves across the country because the technology is there. The 4D ultrasounds, everybody sees that newsflash. It's a baby in there, that's right. And so the pro-life community has been touting the fact that it is time for folks to wake up, and really one of the main groups behind all of this is Live Action. The CEO is Lila Rose. She's a mover, she's a shaker. I think she's a millennial even. She's been doing this for a long time with all the undercover videos, and now they've come out with these abortion procedure videos that have gone viral across the nation. We played this for you last week. We got such a great response. We want to play more of it this week. So in the magic of technology, I'm going to toss to myself, that's right, back in the studio. So David, take it away. There is a huge campaign going on when it comes to specifically looking at what happens during an abortion procedure. Live Action, responsible for this campaign. Take a look.
My name is Dr. Anthony Levatino. I'm a practicing obstetrician gynecologist, and I've performed over 1,200 abortions. Today I'm going to describe a first trimester surgical abortion called suction D&C, dilatation and curettage. This is the most frequently performed abortion and is used typically from 5 to 13 weeks of pregnancy. After administering anesthesia, the abortionist uses a speculum like this.
And joining us now, the head, the CEO, the mover and shaker of Live Action, Lila Rose. Lila, good to see you.
Hi, David. Good to see you, too.
An important campaign. Tell me about the genesis of it. How did this come to fruition, and what's going on? There's been a lot of movement with this.
Well, over the years, working with Live Action and the pro-life movement, I talked to people, what convinced you? What changed your mind about abortion? And it's always having an encounter with the violence, the horror of abortion, really knowing what the abortion procedure is, and the humanity of the preborn child. So we realized that we needed for the movement actual medical animations proving, showing what happens during each most prevalent abortion procedure. So we put this campaign together, and it's narrated and spearheaded by a former abortionist who himself committed 1,200 abortions. So it has that authority to actually show you, the viewer, this is what abortion is, and it's changing already thousands of hearts and minds.
Tell me about those hearts and minds that it's changing, because when you see, we just saw a clip from the video. What are you hoping folks will take away from these videos? Because it's in your face, but it's not gratuitously in your face. Tell me a little bit about what you want folks to take away from these videos.
Well, we wanted to shape them so that they were completely accurate, they're peer-reviewed, and they are just the precise fact of what abortion does to that child at that gestation. And already the lead video, which was within just 5 days, had over 10 million views on social media. And we had, over 200,000 comments just on that one social media feed, and many of the comments saying this changed my mind, because for the first time that horror of abortion became real to people, but it wasn't the gore, it wasn't the the shock value, it was the actual process of what happens to that child. So for the first time, people actually saw that it's not just a clump of cells, it's not just a mass of tissue, but this is a human life, even in the first trimester, and it is deeply moving thousands of people.
Well, that's interesting, because with all those Planned Parenthood videos that came out, those undercover Planned Parenthood videos, it seemed like it was an eye-opener for a lot of folks. And do you feel like this is part of what needs to happen, that people's eyes need to be open with the facts specifically? Because otherwise, I mean, obviously facts are what matter here.
Exactly, that's exactly it, because some pollsters say, well, abortion, the pro-life, pro-choice ratio is largely constant, right? Opinions don't really change. That's not true. We see, at least through our social media platforms, people saying, this changed my mind, because in the hotly contested, political rhetoric, it's all about choice and reproductive freedom and, a woman's body. You're not actually discussing the fact of what the abortion procedure is and how it's killing a living, moving, growing, vulnerable little child. And people think about the first trimester, they don't realize that by the 3.5 weeks, the heart is already beating. That, just under a few weeks, after just 3-4 weeks, there's already the beginning of the brain is forming. I mean, those facts, and you see it, it's startling to people, and that's what changes minds.
Tell me a little bit about how you're going to roll out these videos. I mean, we've seen how many have been rolled out, and how is this going to kind of morph here in the next month or so?
Well, we've got 4 different procedure videos, and then of course the story of Dr. Anthony Levatino, who's a convert to the pro-life cause. I mean, he was an abortionist before. So there's a campaign site, abortionprocedures.com. They're going to be rolled out and promoted through social media and online ad campaigns. So a lot of spend is going to go behind that in coming months. And then partners, we're already in touch with really hundreds of activists, teachers, churches, other pro-life groups, even political campaigns, not just candidates, but folks in office who want this as a tool, because this tool has never been available in the pro-life movement before, to actually see again what is the abortion procedure at the different stages, to have the fact also of how it harms women and narrated again by a former abortionist, so it has that authority.
Very interesting. You mentioned those candidates. I want to come back and talk to you about 2016 and the candidates and this issue. It's a big one. Give us a moment. We're back in a moment. More from Lila Rose and abortionprocedures.com. Did I get it right?
Yes, absolutely.
Amazing. Abortionprocedures.com. Back in a moment. Welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File. Glad you're with us. We're here with Lila Rose and Lila from Live Action. Lila, before we get into 2016, these presidential candidates, explain to folks who are just joining us about these videos, this abortionprocedures.com initiative that you have going here.
Sure. So these videos are groundbreaking for the pro-life movement. 4 of the most prevalent abortion procedures legal in this country, medical animations of what actually the child looks like, what happens during the procedure, narrated by a former abortionist and peer-reviewed by other former abortionists. This one, Dr. Anthony Levatino, who himself committed 1,200 abortions. Extremely powerful, hard to watch, but the facts about abortion.
And you want these facts, these videos, if you will, to get in the hands of these presidential candidates
Absolutely.
and their campaign teams. Tell me a little bit about some of the effort as it
Sure.
relates
So
to this.
the videos are going far and wide. The lead video already has 10 million views in less than 5 days on social media. It's amazing. And they're going to presidential campaigns. They're going to the Select Committee, the Standing Committee on the Hill, to investigate the abortion industry and Planned Parenthood. They're going to other folks, lawmakers. It's important, all this talk sometimes in campaigns about abortion, Planned Parenthood. What's the fact of abortion? Let's agree on what the fact is. What happens to that child? What does the preborn embryo or fetus look like? What happens during the procedure? These are the facts, and we're inserting them into the discussion. So we think the personal impact on individuals and the impact on the political discussion will be huge.
So you really do want these presidential candidates to hopefully bring up some of these videos that you have out there now.
Absolutely, and encourage those that are campaigning for them to use them as tools to educate. Why do we care so much about abortion? Because it's ending the life of a child. Because it's hurting women. Well, these videos walk you through that in a short, powerful way. Let's use them to recruit more folks to the cause.
Take me through a little bit as it relates to presidential politics. We always hear, in the Republican primary, you talk about how you're pro-life and everything, but then in the general election, okay, then it becomes what? This last time we heard war on women, and you have to kind of modify your language a little bit. What is your message to these presidential candidates as it relates to the life issue and why it's important in a general election that they still talk about this and talk about it in a very forceful
Yes.
way?
Well, I like what Senator Cruz and Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz have done in that they've challenged the opposition on abortion by calling out the extremism from folks like Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, and they've said, look, Sanders, Clinton want abortion up till birth. They want abortion anytime. They want abortion to be tax funded. I think those comparisons are very helpful for the candidates to make about their own record and about the other records of those that they might be up against, because the voters deserve to know the facts where candidates stand. And I think it's easy to cover up, if you're Clinton, it's easy to cover up your stance by saying, well, I'm just for women's empowerment and choice. Well, what does that really mean? It means that she's actually against a ban on partial birth abortion. So she's for partial birth abortion, and she's for taxpayer funding for abortion. Most Americans aren't okay with that.
Right. And on Donald Trump, I talked to him the other day, and he talked about how he would veto a bill that came to his desk that would defund Planned Parenthood. But he's also talked somewhat in glowing terms, not glowing terms, but he said some things about Planned Parenthood as well that have been relatively positive. Tell me about the facts, though, because he talked about 3% of abortion, that they're doing about 3% of their work as abortions. That doesn't seem to necessarily be the figure, right?
I mean, it was sad to see, you know, the presumptive front runner right now for the GOP, Donald Trump, touting the 3% claim that only 3% of what Planned Parenthood does is abortion, when that's just outright not true. I mean, even the Washington Post, which is abortion-leaning, pro-abortion, says that that's a 3 Pinocchios, meaning it's an inaccurate depiction of Planned Parenthood's abortion. They are the biggest abortion chain. And even the Washington Post says that maybe up to 40% of their services is abortion. Over 320,000 abortions committed at Planned Parenthood every year in this country.
It's a huge discrepancy.
It's a huge discrepancy. So I think that the candidates need to know their facts, and they need to know, I mean, how can we call Planned Parenthood this abusive organization, sex trafficking, sexual abuse cover-up, the selling of baby body parts, Medicaid fraud? How can we call them wonderful? I mean, that's just a shock to the system. So I think there needs to be more education. The candidates need to make sure that they're educated before they comment.
And you're the educator, Lila.
We're working on it.
Department of Pro-Life Education.
We're working on it. We're working on it.
Lila Rose, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, David.
All right. We're back in a moment with some final thoughts. And welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File here in beautiful Miami, Florida. Look, some closing comments before we go. We're in Florida. Obviously, it's a dogfight here. Donald Trump leading in the polls. Marco Rubio cutting into the lead a little bit. Donald Trump up by about 8 points, 10 points, depends on the poll. Ted Cruz is trying to take this away from Marco Rubio. What do I mean by that? Well, look, Ted Cruz is in this state, and he's hoping, in essence, that if he can't win it, what he doesn't want to happen is Marco Rubio to win this state. And so he's campaigning a lot here, hoping that, look, at least if Donald Trump wins the state, then Ted Cruz will get that one-on-one matchup with Donald Trump because Marco Rubio will be out of the race. I don't know. It's like all my Republicans. It's a soap opera. This thing is so crazy. It's really unbelievable what we've seen. I will say this. Donald Trump is a wonderful at crafting the narrative and branding people. Look, think about how he's branded Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush is what? Everybody knows, low energy, right? What is Marco Rubio now, according to Donald Trump? Little Marco. What is Ted Cruz? He's Lion Ted. Donald Trump is a master at doing the branding. He knows how to do it, and he's on top of the polls. From Miami, Florida, everybody, David Brody here with the Brody File crew. Steve, Abby, Jerome on the camera. We'll see you next time in the stuffy old studio. Have a great week. God bless.